The extension of our hands in trying to do this task at hand. And I'd like to welcome members of the media who are here and all of you who have come out here. Mr. Mandela was a public figure. It is not usual that distribution of legacies is done publicly. But Nelson Mandela is Nelson Mandela. And he stands in a stature of his own. And his will has a public element and a private element. And all of those who lived around him and who worked and supported him, the institutions and schools that were there that molded him, he remembered to give a small legacy as a sign of his gratitude. And all of the people who worked around him, he did much the same way. And it's for that reason that it is important to tell our nation that we have come to the end of our task, that we have done as he asked. I often talk about how he said to Kang, will you look after me when I'm no longer in this land? And I didn't quite understand what that meant, because I saw him so often. And he went off with Tata Bezos, made a will, and later told me, this is what I want you to do when I'm not here. And you can imagine your heart starts beating quite fast, because such an enormous task to have a man of his level of sacrifice and commitment to ask you to perform a task. So in many ways, we're here also to celebrate, to acknowledge that we went out to do what he wanted in his will, and we've accomplished that. And today we are happy to say that the will is solvent. And I can do this best by reading a small media release, after which I'm going to invite Baba Bezos to come and say a few words, and we're going to go on with the business of the day, which essentially is to give out checks to those who are here present, and we'll have a later session with the family where we'll do pretty much the same thing. The accounts, of course, have been lying for inspection in the last 21 days. So this is a very public process. And if you want to know and see what Mr. Mandela had in his lifetime, there's an L&D account, liquidation and distribution account, which lists his assets and lists his liabilities and lists his beneficiaries and what would be gotten by who. At the onset of the administration of the estate, the executors advised that they are in favor of full transparency in winding up of the estate, and then we echoed our desire to achieve an optimum reconciliation between the objective of transparency combined with the objective of efficiency in the administration of the estate. We as executors are pleased to announce that we have reached a very advanced stage in the administration of the estate, where we have identified and collated all local and offshore assets and liabilities belonging to the former President of the Republic, Nelson Mandela, and we have complied with the relevant statutory duties in terms of the Administration of Estates Act of 1965. As part of our statutory duties in terms of the Act, we have prepared and lodged with the Master of the High Court a first liquidation and distribution account in the estate. We are pleased to inform the public at large that the account has been approved by the Master of the High Court, and in terms of the provisions of Section 35 of the Act, would have lain free from objection by the 27th of May 2006. In other words, nobody came and raised their hand and said, I object for one reason or the other. On Friday, the 27th of May 2016, we, the executors of the estate, will forthwith distribute the cash bequests amongst the heirs in accordance with the account and the last will and testament of President Nelson Mandela. After distribution of the cash bequests, we executors will attend to the transfer of movable and immovable properties into the names of the heirs, will pay creditors of the estates and lodge with the master the receipts and acquittances of the creditors and heirs. We will furthermore, we editors, provide the master with the necessary conveyancing certificates or deeds of registration once transfer of the immovable property has been effected. We are delighted to inform you all that no assets of the deceased have been sold in order to pay the bequests and to discharge estate liabilities and costs. In short, the estate was sufficiently liquid to meet the wishes of the testator, Mr. Mandela. We executors wish to point out that the deceased home, situated in Qunu, and the movable assets thereon, which include obviously cattle and other farming implements, have been left out of the account. We anticipate preparing and lodging with the master a second and final liquidation and distribution account after dealing with the Qunu home together with its movable assets once the dispute between the executors and Umama Winnie Madikizela Mandela has been resolved. That is all that I would like to convey at this stage, and would like to have just a final word. And despite all the speculations we found and seen so often in the media, there was no fight within the family. The family was united. They gave us support and something that was totally befitting the stature and the love, the stature of Mr. Mandela, and the love they owed to him and the love he had for all of the family. Much of the assets will be transferred to trusts that will continue to look after the family and long after now. So I'd like to just also take this time to lay to rest the suggestions that there's going to be big rancor and fight. And for me personally, I've received nothing but continual support, and I admire all of you for having been so patient and so supportive in these circumstances, and to the discredit of all the suggestions that you're going to be on each other's throats. It never happened. I thank you. I should have said Baba George.
If you don't mind, you will not stand as a man of 88 with a stick. Nelson Mandela and I met in 1948. That's a long time ago at the university. Friends at the university. He and Oliver Tambo became the first attorney years later, a member of the Johannesburg Bar.
Well, that is the executors of the late former President Nelson Mandela at his estate. Of course, they will be distributing the cash bequest, as you heard there earlier, in accordance with his will. Now, we're trying to just secure the sound there for you because it seems like there's a small technical problem. But let's go back to the executors of the late former President Nelson Mandela.
And he couldn't go to a funeral where he didn't have the benefit of speaking to his children and see them growing up. Oh, can you all hear me, by the way? You still need it. I was nominated by him as a prisoner, as he's a lawyer, and the members of the family, and particularly Winnie, was very good in finding reasons why I should visit Nelson in prison. It was a very difficult thing for him to be separated from the family, not to be able to see the children or grandchildren. But I went from time to time and gave him reports of how they get on at school, what subjects they were to take, what ambition they had, particularly one of them to become a lawyer. And our friendship was described by Nelson in his Long Walk to Freedom, that I became not only a good friend, but I also became Uncle George to the children. It was difficult, but he nevertheless carried on, as we all know, representing the people of South Africa despite the punishment that was meted out to him. I became his agent in the late 80s to visit Oliver Tambo in Zambia and London in order to inform Oliver of what these secret discussions between the apartheid government and Nelson Mandela and his fellow prisoners, Walter Sisulu, Govan Mbeki, and others. It was a friendship which I valued and still value. We represented him after his release. We worked on his will, and he chose the deputy president. We still that for us. And Judge Sangoni, Nelson spent time with me, with our families. We went to Greece together with Mrs. Michelle, Nelson, my wife, and I. And he always had a sense of humor. He said this to my mother-in-law, whom I was taking home after she had lunch at our house. Left her in the car outside the Houghton entrance to the house and went to give Nelson a piece of paper that I had prepared at his request. He wanted to read it. He accompanied me to the car. And there he saw my mother-in-law, who he knew. And he shouted at her, "What sort of a mother are you that allowed your daughter to marry a man like this who leaves you in the car?" And he didn't laugh at his jokes. But my mother-in-law assured him that she didn't suffer waiting in the car. But we became friends right to the end. I am proud to have been a friend of such a great man. I have a complaint against myself and possibly members of the family, that there are members of the family that I haven't yet met. And I'm hoping that that changes. Nelson Mandela wanted during his life and after his life that I should associate myself with the members of the family. I'm still prepared to do it, and I wish that we take opportunities like this one in order to become friends. Thank you very much.
Baba, thank you. I should have warned everybody that you're the best storyteller in South Africa. Dr. George walks up to me and says, "Dikgang," and we're doing the trial of Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela together. He says, "Dikgang, can I tell you a Greek story?" And I say, "Yes, Baba." He says, "Well, in Greece, when you want to buy a donkey, you circulate the rumor that you want to sell a donkey." And everybody would come and make an offer to you to try and buy the donkey that you say you want to sell. And you are the better for it. Because then you can go out there knowing exactly what is the right asking price for the donkey. Now, he tells this church all the time, and he used to tell them between us, no Tata. The last little thing I have to say just before we distribute the money, I wanted to single out specific people who we work closely with as executives, starting with Mama Grasha Michelle, who gave us her complete support and cooperation throughout the process. I know she's in Maputo. She had to attend an unveiling. Otherwise, she would have been here. Your elder sister, Umagaziwe Mandela, has been a tower of strength. She has been there supporting. Everybody said, "I'm going to fight with Mikey within 10 minutes. It doesn't happen in 24 months. So your aunt was great, guys, and we went along very well. And both Zenani, I talked to her only yesterday, all the way from Argentina, Her Excellency, I talked to her, and Her Excellency Zinzi. I also talked to her very recently, and I went to see her in hospital. and I hope she gets better soon. So I'd like to single those out because we work so closely, and we got most and all of you to cooperate. I thought I just want to add that acknowledgement. We've come to the point where we're going to give out the checks that we have with us, and those who are not here, obviously, we're going to pay the money electronically. And I'm going to invite Tenny Lidwaba to call out the people concerned.
Thank you. I don't think the mic is working. It's fine. The first person is Mr. Michael Maponya, if he's around.
Madam Maponya, those who know the family and the house and Utata know that wherever he was, you were always there. And look, he is very thankful. And
Thanks very much.
Sure, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Mr. Maponya was Tata's driver and looked after him for all the years from the time he came out of prison.
The next person is Ms. Sarah Mabuela. Is she around? She doesn't seem to be around. Then if I can then ask Ms. Albertina Dima, if she is around. Okay, if she's not around, can we ask the person who has been requested to represent Clarke Institution? Clarke Institution? Or Clarkeberry?
It's
Clarkeberry Senior Secondary School.
It's Clarkeberry. Thank you for coming again and seeing again. Thank you so much. Do you want to say something quickly? From Clarkeberry? You just across here? Okay, thank you.
Okay, then if we can ask somebody who is here to represent Fort Hare University to come forward.
Thank you. Good morning to you, sir. How are you?
Very well.
Just a little bit for Fort Hare. You want to say a word or two? Yes, you're welcome. But you can only speak if you promise me that I'll get this blazer somehow.
You will get one. To the Mandela family, we, on behalf of the University of Fort Hare, I'm Ayandam Jekula. I am the Deputy Chair of Council. The University of Fort Hare feels particularly honored to be a recipient of this bequest, not because of the monetary value of the bequest, because the issues are too enormous to be satisfied by the bequest. And I don't believe that President Mandela intended to even address the financial challenges of the university. But the symbolism lies in the fact that he has made the bequest, and it symbolizes his love for education and his hopes for the University of Fort Hare, where he was an alumnus. We take that challenge seriously, and I think this award is also timeless, and the message that accompanies also timeless, because Fort Hare is celebrating 100 years of existence, and it is the beginning of the next century for the university. And on behalf of the university, we actually accept the challenge of this bequest to uphold the legacy of Forte and to fulfill the promise of education in this country. Thank you.
Then the next person is Albert Ndlovu.
Mina Wendlovu, siyabonga mntakithi. Ya, ufuna ukukhuluma? Ufuna ukukhuluma. Siyabonga ngendlela ubuphatha ubaba ngakhona, eh? Okay, Nkosi kakhulu.
Then if we can ask somebody who is here for Tunu Secondary School.
Molo mhlekazi. Nansi kwakho ke. You want to say a few words? No, we prefer not to say anything. Okay, Nkosi kakhulu.
If we can then ask somebody who represents Orlando West High School.
We'll have to make a token envelope and call them anyway. Good morning to you, sir.
Morning.
How are you?
Finally.
Thank you for coming. Here is a token, the bequest from Tata. Do you want to say a few words? You're welcome if you want to.
Okay. Morning, everybody. I'm Mr. Malindi, the principal of Orlando West High School. I want to thank everybody who's here and also the executor for the what Orlando West have received. We thank them very much, and also want also to pass this gratitude and thanks to the family, Nelson Mandela family, Nelson Mandela Foundation. We say thank you as Orlando West High School. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Then the last is somebody who's here to represent University of the Witwatersrand.
TVC, siyabonga mntakithi. Yeah, you must say a few words. Can you speak? Yes. You're live. You're on television live, so you go for it.
I'm not as eloquent as my boss. I'm just a scientist. Members of the Nelson Mandela Foundation, trustees, members of the Mandela family. I am Zebulon Vilakazi. I'm the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Postgraduate Affairs of the University of Witwatersrand. His next formative school, where he was shaped and met some of the distinguished people, including Baba Bizos and many others. However, and I'm delighted that I've spoken just after great speech by my brother from the University of Forte, whom I'd like to congratulate, by the way, on the 100 years of achievement. I'm not an alumnus of this great university, but I feel I'm also an alumnus of it. It belongs to us all, and I'd like to congratulate you on that. And of course, for giving us Nelson Mandela, after having shaped him from when he was walking up the hills of Kunu to now moving around the hills of Johannesburg. And I think it's a great achievement and a great legacy to both these great illustrious towers of knowledge and wisdom that we need to bequeath for the next generation. I'm sure that this token of appreciation from Mr. Mandela will go a long way in sending out a symbolic message of the value of higher education, what it means for this generation and the generations going forward. I thank you all. Thank you very much.
We believe that two of the other people we've called earlier have just arrived. So if I can invite Miss Albertina Dima to come forward.
Sawubona mama. Yaphila. Anakhuluma. If you look after that for so long, I was often ukukhuluma one way nje. Usho ukuthi yourself. Yourself. Okay.
I will say thank you.
You want to say thank you only?
Yeah.
Well, I should thank you.
Okay. Just want to say thank you for what the Tata left for me. And this is a privilege working for Mr. Mandela. And then I don't have more to say because I'm so stressed where I am. I'm scared. I don't know why. Thank you.
And then we'll ask Mama Sarah Mabuela to come forward.
Sawubona nkosazana. Dumela mma le kae? No ke siame. Le wena o siama ke? Mme ga o tshabe go bua wena ke? O tlo go bua ke? Lebile mo televisioneng live so ka nna ba go lebeletse go gae. Re bontshe gore o motho le boge sentle ba bolelle gore no direlang tata and le gore ikutlwa yang ka bonnyane bo re go neelang bona.
I don't have any words to say. I just want to say thank you. Being here bring back memories. So thank you, Tata. Thanks for everything.
That, ladies and gentlemen, I think brings us to the end of this part. As I say, that was a token distribution. By far, the bulk of the legacy and the cash bequests will be paid up. Will be paid out electronically, and we will be getting on with that process. And it will include Ms. Zelda Legransi, who is aware and alive of this day, and has preferred to have her bequest paid electronically. But so too many others whose names I could mention now. And thank you for coming. I'm going to call Tate. I'm going to call Tate Hatang if he wants to say anything in closure, but before I call him to do so, and we do so only because tradition requires, it's your home, and so when we leave after using it, you must have the last word. But let me say my small piece just before then. Good. Oh, I see. Yeah, they could ask, yeah, sure. Oh, Q&A, ne? Okay, I'll suggest my last remark and then do the Q&A. He insists that you'd like to have a Q&A for the media. I thought we were done. Now, we judges, you know how it goes in court. When you finish court adjourns, you don't get asked questions. Now, he says we must submit the questions, and I defer to that. I really do. But my parting shot in this regard, and about this in particular, is we as a nation, we need all our heroes to help us in the long journey. We need to keep them intact, and we need to recall them when the going gets tough. Now, heroes are like bright beacons that help lit up the way for nations and for people. And nations without heroes are bound to flounder. And everything gets reduced to the least and not the most. Besides the privilege of being able to serve Tata, when he's passed on. Even more importantly, today was really about remembering that beckoning beacon that says there's greatness amongst us, and we must strive for that greatness. And I just want to kill one little shibboleth. Nelson Mandela has not sold out. And many leaders in the struggle of his generation did not sell out. They set for us a goal that is encapsulated by our Constitution. And those goals we must continue to pursue relentlessly. Let me make the point and shut. When you choose to have a trip to Mthatha and you get a puncture or two on the way, and let's assume the trip to Mthatha is a valuable trip to make. The fact that you've got a puncture or two or the car overboils, it doesn't make the trip a bad destination. So the trip of our nation to be a good nation, inclusive, democratic, non-racial, non-sexist, and that shares its prosperity amongst all its people, it's a trip that we still have to undertake. And that's a trip that our leaders started. So the fact that there are a few wobbles on the way, there are potholes, and we get a puncture or two, doesn't explain to us whether the goal is a good one. The goal remains good. And that's a goal that leaders like Utatu Mandela have set. And we have the duty to follow and pursue that goal, despite the occasional wobbles on the road. But I thank you for coming, and I'm going to hand over to Sillo.
Thank you very much. Since I'm not a judge, the one that just got retired 4 days ago, I thought you were not going to forgive me if you don't get to ask him questions, right? So rather, let me just give you that opportunity. We're going to take about maybe 3 at a go. If you can please say who you are, from which agency, then we can manage the process smoothly. Are there any questions from you? Sophie?
Sophie Mkwena from the SABC. I don't know whether Ntate Hatang or Ntate Museneke or Ntate Pizos will be able to answer this one. Pertaining the grave at the house, there were reports that at some point in time, arrangements will be made that members of the public can visit the grave. In July, it's Madiba's birthday again, but also the International Day. Are we likely to see that happening very soon?
Okay, can I have the second question?
Michelle Gumete from Bloomberg News. My question is, of the total distributions of today, what is the total balance? What is the total figure of all the monies that were given out today?
Okay, last one for this round. Okay, you can go, Justice.
Okay, I'll answer the first question, and I'll give over to Mijali Dwaba, who will add up the totals very quickly and tell you exactly how much of all the amount we'll be paying. That will be done quite quickly. Well, you're talking about essentially phase 2, Memquin. Our duty remains, and there is residue in the estate to be able to do that, to consult with the family quite tightly, and to set out a structure that will be responsible for the public access to the resting place, Rakatata, and that inevitably will also involve the state. So, in my language, I would call it a shrine, and it's something that we will get on with Up to now, there's been a process of just maintaining the graveside. But this would entail more extended constructions, obviously parking areas, and what would be the most effective symbolism for what Tata means to us, and which will be the optimal ways to give public access. But that is something that must start with the family, in conjunction clearly with our government, so that we have an inclusive arrangement. And we hope by July would have made progress to get to that point. Do you want to add that?
As executors and as friends, we are very keen that not only the house in Harlem nearby, not only the offices of Mandela and Tambo in the city, not only could remain open places to honor the heritage of Nelson Mandela. We are appealing to the state and big business, young people, to help us make everything that belonged to Nelson Mandela becomes a heritage site in the country. We are working on it. We are making some progress. I would appeal to all the people here, and particularly the media, to actually help us in really not allowing anything that belonged to Nelson Mandela to be forgotten. Thank you.
On the question about the total cash bequest in terms of the world, it's we didn't do the exact round off, but it's approximately 22 million rands.
Are there any other questions? In the absence of questions, I'd like to thank you very much for coming today, and just say that Ndate Moseneke reminded us that the greatest gift that Madiba gave us, the greatest gift that Robert Sobukwe gave us, Ndate Biko, Andrew Mlange, Nikathrada, Lillian Ngoy gave us, is the values that they said we should be living by, and I think that's one of the things that we look up to you in your retirement, to say you'll continue to help us with that as we build our country. So I want to thank you very much for continuing to do the work that you do on behalf of the foundation, to congratulate you also for the 14 years of service that you've given to the nation, and the 45 more years that you're going to give.
No remission, 15 years, sorry.
15 years that you get. For the 15 years, and the 15 more, and in multiples that you're going to continue to give ahead. Thank you very much. To the executors, Ndati Khamoseneke, Advocate George Bizos, Judge Sangonion in his absence, Ndati Dwaba, and the attorneys here present, we want to thank all of you, the Mandela family, the Machel family. Thank you very much for coming through. And all the beneficiaries who made it, the media, thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much.